Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown Episodes, our weekly look back at the main stories from the weekend's NFL action. This week we're breaking down some key talking points by focus on QB performances across the league, allowing us to take you through a slate of games from week 11. Joining me on the show tonight to go through the good, the bad and the ugly QB showings of the week is Sarah. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. An interesting weekend, which I guess is why we're focusing on the quarterbacks,
Yes.
because again, it kind of just shows the importance of a good quarterback performance. And even when you don't win the game, you can still have a great quarterback performance.
Oh, you're giving away the secrets already and we've only just got started.
No, I know.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, Sarah. Again, this is us 2 weeks out of 3 we've been on, so folks, you're on for an absolute treat.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, so I'm setting us up nicely.
I know, sorry.
Before we dive into it, as always, folks, make sure you're following us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the podcast platforms to make sure you don't miss any of our podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok for all our latest content. Sarah, as you said, we've got a lot to discuss this week, so let's get right into it. As I highlighted to there a minute ago, we have graded the QB performances from week 11 as good, bad, and ugly. And as we go through the show, we'll tell you why and who is in each section. So, first off, Sarah, who is the first person on the good list for you this week?
Okay, well, I think it's an obvious choice, and we'll discuss later on what the type of performance was. But I'm going to go Josh Allen with the Bills against the Bucks this weekend. I mean, when you have 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns, it's an all-round good game, I think.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody that can say that's not great. And obviously, like, we all have to remember he did throw interceptions. It wasn't perfect by any means, but that happens early on and you bounce back quite strong, and you can see he can overcome mistakes, especially when you look at last week's game against the Dolphins, which wasn't a good performance by any means. But I think it just shows that kind of like mental resilience that Josh Allen sometimes has.
Yeah.
And hopefully this can turn into a performance that would maybe carry them through January into February as well.
You kind of alluded to there last week against the Dolphins. They threw an interception really early on and it just seemed to just completely unsettle the offense. The same thing happened against the Bucks. And he spoke about it after the game, and he basically we just went on the same page at the start of the game. We just couldn't get it going. But then he came back and, as you say, is an absolute storming performance. I mean, fair play to the Bucks. The game finished 44-32. It was an absolute cracking game to watch. The Bills kind of just stretched away near the end and kind of wrapped up, but it was great to watch. You see Josh Allen, 317 yards through the air, but six rushes for 3 touchdowns. That's not bad going. He's competing with Jerome Bettis there for the record that he got.
I know. It gives him so it was like 63.3%. I mean, really, anything over 50 is a pretty solid performance. Yeah. So yeah, I was impressed.
But the Bucks didn't get to him. They didn't manage to get any severe pressure on it. There was no sacks. We managed to escape. There was one play, usual Josh Allen. Did it end up in a touchdown? I think it did end up a touchdown, but he managed to just scramble away and beat about 3 tacklers and then just throw it down. Who was that one to? I can't even remember who that one was for. It might have been Terrell Shavers, actually. And he just threw it down the sideline, and you're just like, that's just stupid. That's just like stuff. That's just Josh Allen summed up in one play. Do you know what I mean? So great performance for them. The Bucks. I mean, the Bucks 6-4 now. Not a big issue, I don't think, for them at the moment, but it was a big test for them, and kind of came up a wee bit short.
No one else wants to win that division, so it doesn't really matter what they do, right? They're making it kind of regardless. I think they've got one of the highest probabilities to continue to make the playoffs, I think, anyway. It wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, I do think the Bills defense is also pretty good. Again, not counting last week. And I don't think Baker had the worst performance.
No, Baker was okay. He was 16 for 28 for 173 yards and a touchdown. He did throw 1 interception, but they get 3 rushing touchdowns, including him. He's rushed for a touchdown as well. I mean, the Bucks, they put up 32 points and play the way they did. Probably against anybody else in the league, they'd probably win that game.
Good one. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The Bills just stepped up again. I think the Bills had a point to prove after last week. Do you know what I mean? They couldn't really go 2 in a row with losing if they were to.
On their shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah, especially after Thursday night football's result, they knew they really had to win as well, which we'll come to in a wee bit. But yeah, I mean, the Bucks 6-4. Move on from talking about Josh Allen. That kind of leads me on nicely, because Bucks are 6-4, but right behind them, the Panthers are 6-5. I said this 2 weeks ago. The Carolina Panthers are 6-5.
Like, genuinely, I remember we all spoke, like, we talk about it all the time, but we spoke at the start of the season. We were like, we think the Panthers might be quite, like, impressive. Like, we'll see how they get going. I don't think this is where we thought they would be going.
No, even I know Gav predicted it to be a bit of a dark horse, but Gav could never have predicted that the Panthers would be 6-5. As much as he predicted to be a dark horse this year, I think he was expecting to see a bit of improvement from them. Definitely seen improvement from him this year. 6-5. Bryce Young yesterday went off, so he's next on our good list. 8 yards and 3 touchdowns. What a game Bryce Young had, didn't he?
Yeah, well, that now is he's the highest single game passing yard total owner for the Panthers franchise, which is insane. 448. I don't even know how you like compute it. Like, and only crossed 30, like 31 out of 45. Like, I mean, we talk about them all the time, but like, what are the Falcons doing? That's a shame that they've just totally spiraled
Imploded.
and fell down. But yeah, I also think it shows as well that because I think Bryce Young, well, obviously the first couple of seasons when he was, when he first kind of joined the league, he wasn't really trusted, or either wasn't trusted by coaches or wasn't trusted by himself to throw those deep passes. And now it really seems that he's totally comfortable and can do it, which is just really positive for him in his development and continued development in the sport. And I guess the concerns is maybe like, obviously I just said 45 passes is amazing, but it's also a lot. So does that then maybe suggest that we're really relying heavily on him? And can that lead to other things?
So
Maybe?
I think I might have touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but I think the big difference for Bryce Young is that he has a running back. He has a running back that is actually giving them a running game. Rico Dowdle's just, he done okay with us for 1 year. He kind of looked like he could be something. And then he obviously went to the Panthers, nothing really happened. But this year, he's completely exploded. And that's obviously taking the pressure off of Bryce Young. Yeah, Bryce Young threw for 45 passes yesterday, but he also went on the ground 25 times between Rico Dowdle was 19, then it kind of split between the other two, but so they did have a good mix of passes. They just didn't really get the ground game going. They only had 67 yards, so that's probably forced them to pass it a bit more. But we've seen what Rico Dowdle do, but he's also got a number one wide receiver as well. Just to say, this was mentioned on commentary yesterday, we can't call him Tet McMillan. He doesn't like that. It's T-Mac is what he likes. T-Mac, he doesn't like Tet McMillan's. Tetero McMillan, he went for 130 yards on 8 receptions and 2 touchdowns. So he's got the pieces round about him now. That's what I think the difference is that he's now not running for his life on every single play. He's got the out ball to Dowdle if he needs to check down. He's got 2 good receivers because Xavier Legette got 83 yards and a touchdown yesterday as well. Chung seems to just have everything round about him that he needs now. And we've now seen the Bryce Young that the Panthers went and got and seen in college. Let's just see if it continues. The way he's going at the moment, they seem to have got what they thought they were getting when they picked him a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think there's also a mention as well, because we're talking about, obviously, Dowdle as well. Like, their offensive line was good yesterday.
But this is the second time this season that the Panthers are about 30 points up on the Falcons. This time the Falcons did reply with 27 points of their own, but 21 of them on the first 2 quarters. The game did go to overtime, so we've got to say that as well. So the Panthers just seen it out again. They just seem to be doing enough in these tight games. Let's just get the win. Let's just get enough on the board. But yeah, as you said, the Falcons have absolutely spiralled. 3-7 now. Michael Penix's now on IR for at least 4 weeks with a knee. I don't think it's anything major. It's like a bone bruise or something like that he had at the start of the season. They've now got Kirk Cousins for at least 4 weeks. Yeah, I think the Falcons have absolutely spiraled. I thought they started off well as well. I was right behind the Falcons, but they are not doing very well. So yeah, but Bryce Young, next quarterback on the good list. Right, you kind of hinted to this at the start. You kind of gave it the secret. The next quarterback we're going to talk about did not win his game yesterday, but he put up a performance and a half. Take it away, Jacoby Brissett. What a game he had for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, we're what, an NFL regular season record with 47 completions, and he's not in a starting position, so he's obviously backup for the Cardinals, and I think we spoke this before we came on, but he's just so safe, I think, is the big thing about Jacoby Brissett. Like, if you have him as your backup, you're like, okay, he can go on, it'll be all right. Like, he's not going to do anything silly. He's not going to Joe Flacco it, pretty much, and start throwing stuff all over the place. And you're like, oh my God, just throw the ball to Chase, for goodness sake. Because very accurate, really good chemistry with his receivers, and it's just volume and efficiency. And obviously they didn't win, because we'll talk about maybe why that happened next. But it wasn't a bad performance by any means. And I mean, we know, I don't think anybody really expected the Cardinals to be much this year anyway. So I think for them to put up a relatively good game against a pretty strong team is something that's probably worth highlighting.
Yeah, like, I think he deserves a mention purely just for that record for 7 completions out of 57. To throw 57 passes is ridiculous, but
52.5%.
to complete them is just ridiculous. He went for 452 yards and 2 touchdowns. His wide receivers had a day. Michael Wilson, 185 yards. Nobody's ever seen that number, never been caught that way. And then Trey
He
McBride
doesn't see the number because Kyler Murray usually runs it, so he
Oh,
doesn't.
that is true. Oh,
He's
Trey
not
McBride
seeing
usually
it.
hogs it all. Trey
Yeah,
McBride
exactly.
Trey McBride got 115 yards as well, so we can't really say much there. But the running game didn't really get. I mean, I think DeMarcado went out quite early, but the running game only ran 14 plays on the ground the whole game for 36 yards. Yeah, I think Jacoby just went, nah, you're not getting it. I'm just throwing it on every down here. So, yeah, I mean, good. I think he deserves to be on the good list. I know the team didn't win, but to come in as a backup quarterback and put in a performance like that, he's probably put himself in the window for a team next year that becomes QB needy, if it's not Cardinals, because who knows what's going to happen with Kyler Murray going forward. As you mentioned, though, they were up against a returning quarterback. Is he the backup quarterback? Is he QB1? Who knows what's going on in San Francisco? But Brock Purdy was back from his turf toe injury to lead the 49ers. The game finished 41-22 to the 49ers. Brock Purdy is on the good list. 19 receptions, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Good comeback for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. And obviously everyone was speaking beforehand of, oh, really, should they put Brock Purdy back on? Should they just keep with Mac Jones and see how that continues to go? I think the big thing for Brock Purdy in this game was he didn't have any interceptions. And I think and he's normally a bit snap happy when it comes to interceptions. So I feel like that was a key thing for him, was just try to keep that ball safe and making those smart decisions. And obviously, like 19 out for 26. 73.1 completion rate and with 3 touchdowns. It's a pretty good showing. And obviously now they're joint second between him and George Kittle for the most touchdowns between a quarterback and a player in San Francisco, which is great, considering it's not been a super long time.
Yeah.
But they just seem to really connect with each other. And it now seems that George Kittle's also maybe back at full speed, because obviously he was
he looked kind of back to his usual chirpy self, and he did. And to be fair, was it a coincidence that we kind of seen the good Christian McCaffrey yesterday as well? 81 yards on the ground, 40 yards through the air as well, with 3 touchdowns in total.
That's probably, again, we'll talk about some stuff later, but I think he's maybe in the running for Offensive Player of the Year, McCaffrey.
I think so.
I guess he was. Yeah, well, he was doing all the 49ers dirty work for him when they were playing with Mac Jones, and basically it was entirely on Christian McCaffrey. So I think he just continues to prove the point that he is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, of course, yeah, no, he is. We've seen him back to his best. Well, kind of you can see the pressure wasn't all on him, because Mac Jones has done a good job in there, but like you said, the passing game seemed to be back to, whereas George Kittle seemed to be back to his usual self. Brian Robinson chipped him 8 runs as well. So, yeah, it was a good performance for the 49ers. They're now 7-4. This NFC West is just, you can't call it at all. This is going to go right down to week 18.
I think, people are depending. It totally comes down to who is going to make it between the West and the North. Who is going to have the additional team? I think
it's certainly not going to be the South. Could it be the South? Could it be the South?
Could it be the South that has 2 teams?
Could it be the Bucks, and then could the Panthers get in the wild card?
I mean, maybe, but when you've got what you're currently looking at on the window, like pull up the window. Pull up the playoff window for the NFC.
That's literally what I'm doing right now. Playoff picture right now.
Go for it. You tell me. I think it's such a hard one this year. Like,
So the Panthers are currently sitting 9th in the playoff picture with a 21% chance of making the playoffs. But let me just pull up the full NFC standings, right? Let me just pull up. So they're 9th, right? But they're 1 game back in the Niners.
Yep.
They're a game and a half back in the Packers. I mean, they've played a game. They've played 11 games, so they've not obviously had a bye week yet. So Seahawks are 7-3. I mean, depends on how these other teams go when they're on their bye week. They could be 1 or 2 games back on these playoff positions by the end of the.
I know.
That's wild. I don't think they will, but I'm just throwing it in there that there's a chance that the Panthers could.
Yeah,
they're in the running. That's the difference. They are in the running. But the NFC, There you go.
Yeah, when you look at it, because a loads of people are trying to decide, will the NFC North have 2 teams or will they have 3 teams, and will the NFC West have 2 teams or will they have 3 teams?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's looking at. Because we don't. I mean, we spoke about it in great length last time we were on, but the NFC North is becoming increasingly difficult to try and decide who's going to be the winner of that. And again, we spoke about how teams doing just enough to win, and the Bears fall in that category, considering who they've played against, how close it's been. Has it been 1 point? Has it been 3 points? So I think that's why they're there at the top just now, and we'll see how they continue to go, because they've got quite a hard stretch in the next couple of weeks as well. But then you cannot count out the NFC West, because the 49ers, who are now probably going to play quite great, are technically third in that division.
Yeah, wild. I think this is like one of the closest seasons I've seen in a long time. You obviously get some divisions where you end up 3 teams getting because you can't separate them, but there's just so many teams in that kind of bubble at the moment. I don't think I've ever seen it week 11. Maybe I've just got a terrible memory, but I don't think I've ever seen in week 11 when you've got so many teams that still have a good shot. You could probably count, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams out of all of them that you could basically say you're not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Everybody else is. I'm probably being a bit nappy more because there's not anybody else for the NFC East going to get in. But yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. So let's take the NFC East out of the equation. There's only the bottom of each division, apart from the NFC North, who the Vikings are still in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of teams that are still in playoff contention with 7 weeks to go, which it's going to be a great stretch down the run anyway for that. But yeah, coming back to 49ers, like you said, third in the division at 7-4. That's nothing for them in that NFC West this season.
No, because they're all chilling about that. The only team that's slightly pulled ahead is the Rams, on 8-2. But even then, stranger things have happened. So who knows?
Yeah, that's it's wild. An interesting thing is in that NFC West, with the exception of the Cardinals, so the Rams are 2-1 in the division. Seahawks are 2-2. 49ers are 4-1 in the division.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're third, but they've won 4 divisional games already.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
is there loss to the Rams?
I cannot remember who they've lost.
I would imagine
I wouldn't
so.
say so. The Rams have lost 2 games though, so it could have been. Let me just quickly pull up. The LA Rams beat the 49ers beat the Rams. Oh, they're tied. They're split. Sorry, they're split.
Oh, have they played? They've played them twice.
Twice, right, okay. Yeah. They've only got the Cardinals left to play. So the Rams have got the Cardinals left to play twice. Sorry, I'll get myself mixed up there. 49ers will only have 1 divisional game left to play because they're obviously 4.
The Seahawks at the end.
Yes, the last game, Seahawks.
Yeah, which might be an interesting. Because then the interesting thing with the 49ers is the week before that they played the Bears, which also might be a playoff game. So they've got 2 hard games back to back towards the end of their season. And I mean, next week
the Colts as well. Colts, Bears, Seattle. So Bears. Joe, just when we're talking about who's going to make the playoffs here, it's the 49ers against the Panthers next week, which we'll come to later on.
See, that's what I mean. They've got loads of the rest of the 49ers season is very interesting for your playoff.
Yes. Okay, let's move further down on the list. We've got 3 left. Next player on this list is another player who didn't win this week, but I think deserves some plaudits, and that is Jameis Winston. He came in, obviously Jackson Dart got concussion. I think Winston knew early in the week that he'd been elevated. That's another talking point. We can talk about quarterbacks in a second. Winston was told, you're now QB2, you will start if that doesn't include protocol. It didn't. He threw 19 for 201 touchdowns and an interception, but I still think watching Jameis Winston, he put a good performance for that Giants team against a strong Packers defense.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing is they were still keeping it close. And I think obviously their defense had quite a lot to answer for that, but they were it never felt like they weren't in it. Never felt like it was running away from them, which we'll talk about somebody that happened to this week. But I was on that. It never ever felt like it was super duper one-sided. Now I know obviously that the Giants defense ran a bit of amok around the Packers and did some damage, I think, to what the Packers were maybe trying to create in that.
Yeah.
I still think I was watching the game and I was like, why is Russell Wilson not on? I was just like, why not? Nobody trusts Russell Wilson is basically what it comes down to.
That's exactly it.
But yeah, I think he's another one, it's like Jacoby Brissett, that is just a bit stable. It's just that stability is what they need while what if Jackson's still going to be in protocol, but I imagine he's going to come back next week.
Yeah.
The next
I mean, the thing was that they were driving to try and tie the game, and his interception came in with 3 minutes left to play in the end zone. So they were driving to try and tie the game up. So it wasn't as if, like you said, they were always in the game. And then as soon as that happened, it just killed it because the Packers just kind of ran the clock down, punted it, and then nothing really happened after that. Yeah, I mean, I think Brian will be delighted we're talking about Jameis Winston. Like, Brian's a massive Winston fan. But I just think he's another player that's come in, kind of like you mentioned there, like Brissett's come in, kind of stable. I mean, he did run a lot last night. He ran 38 plays last night at the Giants. But Winston, 201 yards, decent performance, averaging nearly 7 yards a throw. Especially when you don't have Malik Neighbours, you don't have that wide receiver number
You
one.
don't have your star.
He spread
Right.
it about as well. I mean, Hodgins 5, Tracy 4, Theo Johnson 3, Andy Robinson 4. So he did spread the ball about as well. So he was confident. Sometimes you see backup quarterbacks come in, they'll just throw it they'll have that safety valve. But he was like, nah, I'm just going to throw it to whoever I want. And some of the catches to Theo Johnson are big plays as well. I'm sure a couple of our big third down catches as well. So, yeah, Jameis Winston deserves a mention on this week's podcast and be on the good list because he's an all-round good guy as well, with Brian will tell us.
He's a good guy. He's
He
a
really
good
is.
guy.
Excellent. Right, we've got 2 left on the good list and then we'll move on. So next up, I'm going to bring up someone who I wasn't massively sold on. He was good last year. He led his team. Question was this year, is the record inflated? Are they really as good as Brian wants them to be? They hosted the Kansas City Chiefs last night and beat them 22-19. It's Bo Nix. He led his team on a game-winning drive last night against a very good Chiefs defence, and we all know Spags is like with his defence. But Bo Nix walked down the field and scored the winning points for the Broncos to win that game. He stepped up and he showed, yeah, do you know what? I am good. I can do this, and I can do this against the best.
Yeah, because that's hard. That the Chiefs are hard for them. They play them twice a year, and they know what it's like to go against them. And I mean, I am in the belief that I don't think Mahomes is playing his best anyway. But I think when you compared the two of them, I think Bo did look like the better quarterback last night, and I think that proves exactly that. I think the good thing about Bo is I don't think he's overly flashy, and I think he's again very, very steady, and maybe that's why people don't really rate him all that well, because he's not doing the big crazy things. So maybe he is a bit undervalued, but yeah, I think it was a true show up in terms of him being a leader and maturing into that role that they need him to be. In Denver, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that win last night basically secured the division for them. The Chiefs are only catching them now, barring an absolute miracle, but they're 9-2, the Chiefs are 5-5. I mean, yeah, it's a crazy 4-game lead on them. Another good thing I kind of mentioned there with Jameis Winston, a good thing about Nix as well, I think he's very good at this, is he spreads the ball about as well. He's very good at bringing all his wide receivers into the game and cracking passes to Troy Franklin. There was one that actually got pulled back. I think it was for a hold. It was an absolute cracker as well. He went to Cortland Sutton in a big third down on that final drive before the field goal. We'll not mention the spot that the officials gave the Broncos because it was ridiculously bad and they just get the first down when it should have been at least a yard and a half. Yeah, and they've got a bit of a running game going as well. RJ Harvey, they didn't go well last night, but again, it's that balance. We don't have to throw all the time. We've seen J.K. Dobbins. I'm pretty sure I've seen during the week he's done for the season. I think it was an ankle injury he's got. Don't quote me, I've definitely seen he's done for the season. So it's RJ Harvey all the way now. So he needs to step up for the rest of the season and help them. But yeah, 9-2 Denver Broncos. Who would have ever thought that at the start of the season, apart from maybe Brian? But maybe even a cocky Brian probably wouldn't have said they would go 9-2 at this point.
Yeah, no, who would have thought? I mean, but we could talk about my surprise and my continued help.
It's no longer a surprise though. That's the thing, because you just talk about it every week.
I know.
Who's the last player? Who's the last player on our good list tonight?
I'm going to talk about my guy, Drake May. Listen, I love this, but I feel like I'm going to have to get a May jersey, and I don't even support the Patriots, really. But I mean, so he went 25 out of 34 for 73.5 completion, for 281 yards, and obviously threw a touchdown. And again, I think he's really just showing poise. And he's just able to make the right reads. Again, we're talking about how he doesn't. He's obviously throwing the ball, but they don't always have to throw the ball. They can do the run, and I think he's really showing signs of being a franchise quarterback. And even when he's being pressured, he just handles it
Yeah.
really, really well.
Yeah, they had a good balance last night. You see, he threw for 34, but they also 27 on the ground as well. Trevion Henderson had a decent game as well. He did 2 touchdowns. He had a decent game, an excellent game, 2 touchdowns. I mean, one thing that stood out for me watching the Patriots was that connection between Drake May and Stephon Diggs. We all know the Stephon Diggs that we've seen in the past. He is the true
And
number one there.
we all thought that we was going to go to the Patriots, and we're like, well, okay, well, we'll see what happens. But it just shows that you can't really count him out. You couldn't really count him out.
What I
He's
think,
magic.
and what I might credit, and I might be completely wrong with this, one thing I seen last week, I think I said in our group chat, is I don't know if anybody watching or listening to this knows this. After every game, Mike Vrabel waits in the tunnel and greets every player coming off the field. Every player, every coaching staff, every
He's a great
assistant.
head coach. Yeah.
I think that's going to make a massive difference to someone like Stephon Diggs, because he's like, I want to be number one, I want to be loved, I want to be shown that, and he clearly gets that from Mike Vrabel, because Mike Vrabel gives that to everybody in the team.
Yeah.
And that's probably helping Drake May as well. He's like, he's got a coach that believes in a coach that really kind of as a man manager.
And wants him to do well. He's not somewhere where it's kind of like, oh, okay, fine, whatever, we're not really going to develop, we're just going to continue how we're going on and see what happens after. Like, he really is getting that proper connection. I mean, it's because obviously we talk about all the time how it's a QB led league, right? So you have to have that belief in you, especially because he's so young. Like,
yes, yeah. I mean, he's got a massive future ahead of himself. The thing is, I warned you before we started. I am going to throw this at you. The Patriots are 9-2, but they have faced 7 of the worst teams in the NFL this season. Are they performing really well because of their schedule?
I mean, do they not have like the second or third like easiest schedule?
Yes,
I think
they do.
And do you know what? It doesn't even really get that difficult for them. I mean, they play the Bengals next week, who at defense is just running to catch a bus at this rate. They're not doing anything. Their big ones will be against the Bills, and then the following week they're against the Ravens. I mean, depending on what Lamar Jackson turns up that week.
That is very
But
true.
I mean, but they bet the Bucks.
They did.
They bet the Bucks. So did the Bills. So yeah, I mean, and they bet the Bills the first time they played them. So who knows? I'm still really. They also bet your favorite Panthers, didn't they? By quite a lot. So yeah, I don't think they're maybe not quite at my caliber of who they really beat. I've got another team who I'm always like, who they really beat, but. Yes, we'll see. I still think if they don't make the playoffs, something
No, they're in the playoffs. There's not a chance. I mean, they've got it's at 90, the highest. No, sorry, second highest. 98% chance to make the playoffs as we sit right now. They're making the playoffs. It's just whether they're going to get in as division winners or even number one seeds. Or are the Bills going to? I mean, I reckon both of them go undefeated until they play each other. So looking at that, Patriots would be getting into that game 11-2. The Bills would be 9-3. Bills, just a quick sums, they would go 12-2. The Bills would go 9-4 with 3 games to go. That could potentially be a division winning game.
Yes. The Bills
Patriots won the first one, so they'll have a tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker, and the Bills after the Patriots play the Browns, but then play the Eagles. Now, I guess depending on where you look at it, that's the second last week of the regular season. So, and if the Eagles have already set who, is that when you start letting people sit out or not using them as much?
Yeah. Okay. It's going to be interesting. That one will be interesting. It was that week 15.
Week 15.
Bills and the Patriots. That could be a division winning game. So for the Patriots, I don't think the Bills aren't going to win it that night. Obviously,
it's at Gillette too. I forget they went to the Bills and won. So I mean, but sometimes the Patriots don't really play well at home. Who said that? Not me.
On the flip side of that game, they played the Jets. They beat the Jets 27-14. Justin Fields really struggling in that team. They have announced today, just before we came live, that Tyrod Taylor will start next week for them. So Justin Fields has been benched. It's just not going very well in the green side of New Jersey at the moment, is it?
No. Are we shocked? Probably not.
Nah, we're not.
Nah.
We aren't. So yeah, we'll move on. And it's not even. He didn't have a bad performance, Justin Fields. I mean, so he's not making the bad or the ugly list tonight, but he's just really struggling in that team at the moment. And we'll see what Tyrod Taylor does if he comes in next week. If he struggles as well, it just shows you it's either both of them are not very good or the actual system is just not working at all.
It's
So
not good.
right, so as we mentioned at the start, Sarah, some of those performances do not end the victory, but they were all great games by those quarterbacks that we mentioned. So fair play to them this week. They led their teams to some great victories or their own individual performances. So let's move on to the bad list. So we've got 2 quarterbacks on the bad list. One of them does come with a caveat, though, which we'll come to. But do you want to tell us the one player who we feel is solidly on this bad list this week?
It's JJ McCarthy, isn't it? I felt like, I mean, you can tell, I mean, he hit bang on a 50% completion. So 16 of 32 for 150 yards, which isn't really great as it basically comes down to. I think when you look at him kind of as what he's done, for his first 4 games, it's been 5 touchdowns but 6 interceptions. I just don't know if he's a pure pocket passer because he obviously wants to run, he wants to be that dual threat.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's maybe what the Vikings currently have set up doesn't really allow him to do that, or whether it's just not there yet to do it. And I think he just needs to prove, like, we were watching some of the passes he's thrown and it's just not accurate when he's throwing down. And you could see Jefferson getting really frustrated at it because there's one in particular where he threw it behind him and he turned around expecting it to be right there and it landed like a couple of yards in front of him. He was just like, what why can't I catch it?
Justin Jefferson is not someone who you don't see him getting frustrated very often. He's not one of these but he went off and he was ready for throwing his helmet down and he held on to it and because he knew he'd get flagged and then he banged it against the medical bench and he was just very frustrated. I think with JJ McCarthy, he has been in the building for a couple of years, but it is still his rookie season. But I still would expect more, having sat and watched the team and learned the system. Yeah, you've still got to build up that chemistry with your players, which I get, but we're at week 11. I know he has been out and he missed a few games with injury, but he's going to have to pick that up very quickly. If the Vikings have got any hope of making any kind of run towards the playoffs, he's going to have to iron those issues out very quickly because it wasn't, numbers-wise, it doesn't look too bad, but it was just when you watched him, it just, like you said, the passes were all over the place. It was just, and it wasn't even hard passes that he was missing either. There was some, you like to say, I went to Jefferson, you like just throw it in his numbers and he's going to catch it. So
he always catches balls. Like, Jefferson catches everything almost. So, you know it's bad when he's getting frustrated because he's just such a, like, oh, I'm just chilled. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 2 interceptions as well. That obviously didn't help the case. I mean, again, it was another one of those games where the Vikings were right in it until the end. It was 19, it was a walk-off field goal to win it from Cairo Santos, but yeah, I think both teams just weren't good. I mean, they just kind of, both teams kind of like a bit meh. And it basically came down to who was going to possess the ball last to kick that field goal, who's going to win it. That's purely all it was. Do you know what I mean? So Santos had missed a field goal earlier in the game as well, so it wasn't a gimme when he got that, but he did put it through just and won the game 19-17. So yeah, JJ McCarthy, you are on the bad list this week. You did not perform very well this week. So the next one, right, and this one, people watching this are going to think this is probably harsh, right? But bear with me because it might be harsh, but I've got caveats to it. So the next person on my list is Shedeur Sanders, right? And I know everybody's going to list this going, oh, man, he's barely played right. Shedeur Sanders, 4 for 16 for 47 yards and an interception, right? And this is where my issue with this is not necessarily on him. And I kind of read before I came on, I've completely forgot who the backup quarterback I read before I came on. I said it to you guys earlier on. He was basically saying that as a third string quarterback, you do not take any first team reps in practice at all. You are the scout team quarterback. You don't build the chemistry with the wide receivers. You don't build the chemistry with the running backs. One of the offensive linemen came out and said, I've heard his cadence twice before tonight. So even the linemen don't know his cadence. So, but then you've got to think, you've been sitting there all season watching how it all works. Was it nerves? Was it that he's not used to doing it? Because some of the passes were wild. They were not even in the vicinity of where the receiver was. And that's not down to chemistry. That's not down to that's just throwing the ball not where it's supposed to be. Are we being too harsh on him? Does he deserve a bit of leeway?
I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I guess I think it's so. I feel like he's maybe put himself in a bit of a bad point because of everything that happened in the draft. And I feel like when you talk a big game, you sort of also have to play a big game. And I get it. Like they don't know. Like nobody on that Browns or like starting offense knows him essentially. So they don't have that. And I think it's a bit of column A and a bit of column B. Maybe he isn't actually as good as he thinks.
I think we all know he's not as good as him and his dad think he is.
Yeah, but
I mean, the thing is,
maybe
like,
now everybody can see that, and
and I
maybe
think
that also explains why the Browns defense is so. Because if they're playing against him, then they don't really have a competition, do they? Sorry, that's
um,
nasty. Oh
I
dear.
think I mean it's like we were talking about it with Brian, obviously Brian being the Browns, and we talked about this before we came on here, and he just seemed like a rabbit in the headlights. The pace of the game, everything. Like you said, he talked this big game, and I'm used to big pressure situations and all this sort of stuff. No offense to Colorado, but do you really get the big pressure situations playing at Colorado as you would expect maybe some of the bigger schools? I wouldn't say so.
I think. Just we were talking about how it looks on deer in the headlights. I mean, if I'm gonna like maybe play devil's advocate here, that was against the Ravens. That was a divisional game
Yeah.
for them.
Yep.
That's a hard.
How good's the Ravens defense been this season?
Yeah, I know, but we always talk about how divisional games are like total, like can just go either way, right? So I don't know if was it just too much, like on a
Well,
first
I don't
goal?
think I genuinely like, and I might be. This is just me making my own assumptions. I do not think it would have mattered who he played last night.
Who was playing against?
It was just, I think it was the speed of the game. I think it just caught him by surprise at how quick the players were getting to him. Because again, like you said, on a scout team quarterback, they aren't coming. The defense aren't coming out at full speed. They're really not. I mean, Miles Garrett is not going to run at you at full speed in practice. It's just not going to happen. So I think when he was in that pocket and the pocket was collapsing so quickly and he was having to get out, I think the speed of it probably took him by surprise. And I think that's why you've seen some of the passes, because he was rushing and he just wasn't executing. But I've put him on the bad list this week, but I am going to give him a bit of a pass based on we don't really know if that was him.
Yeah.
We don't know, was that a bad performance? Was that bad prep? I say bad prep. The prep he got was the same as any other third string quarterback. It's not as if he's been treated differently from anybody else in the position that he would be in. So I'm going to give him a bit of a pass at the moment. What we'll see is if Dylan Gabriel doesn't clear concussion protocol next week, that's when the Browns have got a decision to make. So they're playing the Raiders. Have they really got a decision to make?
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, they're thinking on that defense.
Max Crosby.
So they do.
The game is in Vegas as well.
So they do have a decision to make.
Do they throw him in to the black hole against Matt Crosby, or do they go out and go and get Joe Flacco back? So, I mean, that's the question. What did the Browns do?
Oh, I don't even know.
Max Crosby is going to eat him alive.
He'll eat him alive, absolutely. Oh no, that's a shame.
I mean, but this is the thing.
If they were playing the Bengals, I'd be like, oh yeah, fine, do what you want. Like, doesn't really matter again. Like, but they're not. And then they play the 49ers after that. Jesus Christ. Oh dear.
If you want to be an NFL quarterback, you need to get used to it. It's as simple as that.
I'm not saying you don't get used to it, but
no, what I'm saying is like, this is a sink or swim. Fedor Sanders has now found himself, after all the big talk, he has found himself in a sink or swim situation right now. So many players have done it, but so many players have disappeared without a trace. Do you know what I mean? So I read a thing before I came online, it was someone not defending Fedor Sanders, actually making a point of it. Was it a couple of years ago that the Rams signed Baker Mayfield and he played 48 hours later and led them to a game-winning drive?
Yep.
Never knew the offense, never knew the playbook. Fedor Sanders has been sitting there all season. So I'm going to give him a pass for now, but whoever's on the show next week, I can't remember who's on next week. We'll revisit this if he starts against the Raiders. And I generally can't remember who's on next week. I know it's not me. Or maybe it is. We'll find out next week. It's a surprise to everybody.
I think it's you and Brian.
Well, if it's me and Brian, even better. If it's me and Brian, that's perfect. So, So Fedor Sanders, everybody watching us, if Fedor Sanders starts for the Browns next week, tune in, because it will be the first thing we talk about. Either way, either he's going to get swallowed up or he's going to somehow lead the Browns to beat the Raiders. So please tune in next week, because Brian will be itching to talk about it. On the flip side of that game, again, it's another game where the Browns somehow stayed in it. Maybe not as much. They were the Ravens. The Ravens beat them 23-16 on a fake tush push, which I loved. Mark Andrews, a couple of times he had used the Ravens tush push and got the first down. This time he spun out and ran down the field for 35 yards on the winning touchdown. I think it was about 4 minutes to go, but the Ravens just could not put the Browns away in it. And I think it was, well, I wish it wasn't because of what the Browns, it was because of Miles Garrett. sacked
Oh,
Lamar
yeah.
Jackson 4 times last night.
I mean, we're talking earlier about Christian McCaffrey having Offensive Player of the Year. Is that not your runner for Defensive
At the
Player of the
moment,
Year?
at the
Right
moment, I
there.
think.
Like,
Yeah, again.
again. Who is shocked? Not me.
And I started, and Brian, obviously, Brian's Miles Garrett's biggest fan. This was on another group chat I'm on with Brian, that Miles Garrett's the first player in, I think, the kind of modern era. It's had 6 seasons in a row, at least 12 sacks.
What does that tell you?
Best to ever do it is the argument at the moment. We're kind of debating between him and Aaron Donald at the moment in the group chat, so we'll see how that one plays out. But yeah, the Ravens, like you said earlier on, you don't know what Lamar Jackson's going to turn up. He's not found his stride yet after his injury. I don't think he'd done enough, but no touchdowns through the air, 2 interceptions. I still think the Ravens come good. Because they're in that division that the Steelers are.
Again, nobody wants to win.
Yeah, because as we've seen, we'll talk about his quarterbacks who are here. Aaron Rodgers, broken left wrist. He's out.
Yeah.
We don't know how long for. Mason Rudolph will start for the Steelers next week. So all the cards are falling the way of the Ravens, as I predicted.
As they always do. Get on.
Right, so let's move on to let's wrap up with the ugly list. Despite one of these quarterbacks being a 61-yard field goal away from winning their game, I have still put him on this list. But before we get to him, the first quarterback on this list, you've seen him firsthand yesterday. Talk us through Justin Herbert's performance versus your Jags.
I don't think it was a performance. I don't even know if you could call it anything. Like I think I don't know if and this is obviously me kind of obviously just speculating. I don't know if the Chargers saw the Jaguars play last week and absolutely fall apart in that fourth quarter and thought, okay, this will be all right. And then they did the same thing in that wild card weekend where this didn't happen, to be fair. But he just looked like he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, you have 18 attempts. He completed 10 of them for 81 yards. It's so not in his character to perform like that. Obviously, he threw an interception. Fine. So so did Trevor. So okay, whatever. But I think the big thing for the Chargers is that offensive line was awful. He was pressured. He was pressured 12 times and he was sacked twice.
Yeah.
During that game. And he just wasn't connecting. He just didn't look like himself. He seemed to have a problem yesterday of holding that ball for too long, which is why he was then getting pressured, because he wasn't. Now, I don't know if it's because the Jaguars defense was showing up in coverage, but he just couldn't click it all together. And then obviously he went out and before the end of the first half for concussion and then came back in. And then obviously because the Jaguars were so far ahead, they ended up benching him to obviously just try and let him not be injured. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think it was like, yeah, I don't know. It's just we spoke this again before. And I know Dan's a big fan of Justin Herbert. Like people were saying that it's like a regression game for him because obviously they didn't. Their game the week before also wasn't like it played better, but they also lost that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a question's got to be should he have been cleared to play after it? Did the concussion play a part in it?
I'm probably not. Like I don't probably not. I mean, he didn't. And to give obviously that some caveat, like when he was talking post game, it wasn't bad. It wasn't standing up like Tua and saying some stuff he shouldn't have been saying. But he was taking full responsibility of it and saying that he was just totally not in it there. But I don't know. Maybe he probably shouldn't have come back.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, that's like you said, very uncharacteristic numbers for him. Like he is usually one of the passing leaders in the league to only throw for 81 yards. I mean, no disrespect to the Jags, but you should be a quarterback like him should be throwing for more yards against the Jags. The Jags do have a good defense, but yeah, something just wasn't right there.
Not that good. Like the Jags defense isn't that good to slam them out to only 2 field goals.
Yeah, and those 2 field goals came in the first 2 quarters as well. They shut them out in the second half. Do you know what I mean? It just something wasn't working for the Chargers.
No.
Just do not know what it was. But they're going to have to bounce back quickly if they've got any hope of still making the playoffs. Because as we mentioned already, the Broncos have got that sealed
and the Chiefs
pretty much. And the Chiefs are only far behind. The Chargers at the moment are sitting in the playoff spot at the moment, but only because the Chiefs aren't.
I think the big caveat as well is that I think on the flip side of that, obviously, because it was 35-6 and it was shut out for the defense. Like, I mean, to give some credit where credit's due, like the Jags' offense was clicking. They were running really, really well. Jacoby Myers can catch a ball,
Yes.
which is why we picked him up. And like for the Jags there was no punts. There was no punts and no field goals. So that
Well,
was
just while you mentioned punts, you actually meant to mention this earlier and I forgot. If you have not seen Ethan Evans' punt for the Rams, please go and look
please go
out.
watch it.
It is
Yeah.
probably the most perfect punt you will ever see in the NFL. Before and after this, you will never see a punt like it. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to describe it because I want you to go and watch it. The perfect punt. Sorry, so let's move on from Justin Herbert. This next guy, again, his team almost won this game. Well, a missed 61-yard field goal away from winning this game, but he did not help his team at all last night. It's Sam Darnold. 4 interceptions last night, and thinking back, I think all 4 of them were pretty bad. There might be a couple of taps, but there was a couple of ones just like, yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't a good pass. So 279 yards off of 44, but those 4 interceptions were absolute killers, weren't they?
Yeah, there's nothing really else to say apart from you can't throw that many interceptions and expect and no touchdowns and expect to do it. Like again, I think it just shows kind of the strength of the Seahawks defense there for allowing them to keep Rams kind of relatively at bay, because I think Rams probably have the best offense, one of the best offenses in football, certainly in the NFC anyway.
Yeah.
And I think during this game in particular, which I think is a bit uncharacteristic for Sam Darnold with what he's done so far in Seattle, but it was such aggressive throwing under pressure, and he was just throwing really tight coverage. And obviously, we don't know what kind of games, what they're playing, like what are they running during those throws and what are they deciding on. But he just is showing again, is he like a really serious turnover risk, and he just needs to try and maybe take that aggressiveness down and just take a bit of a beat to be like, right, okay, I don't need to do this because my defense can come on and can stop them and can hold them correctly. I don't need to go out and be the big baller for it.
Yeah. I think this is the Sam Darnold that we're used to seeing in the league. That's the Sam Darnold that before he had that season at the Vikings last year. This is what stopped him getting his career progressing. Obviously, he had that great year last year, and to be fair, he was doing okay for the Seahawks this year. But that performance is in his locker. And I know all quarterbacks can have a performance like that, and it can happen. But with him, you're like, yeah, we've seen this before. We've seen this story before. They just need to make sure they bounce back next week because they cannot, as we mentioned, this NFC West is so tight. You need to make sure that you're keeping in, even if you're losing to the Rams, it still keeps you in the division. But you can't start slipping back and having performances like that in consecutive weeks, because before you know it, you'll be left behind and your playoff picture. You can wave goodbye to it. That game finished 21-9 to the Rams, which the Rams are okay. They didn't do anything spectacular. Matthew Stafford was only 130 yards, over 119 yards on the ground. The biggest thing was that you mentioned that those 4 interceptions meant that the Seahawks kicked a lot of field goals. They had 1 touchdown last night. The rest of it was field goals. In a divisional game, field goals only going to win you games. This did come down to what was a 2-point game. But again, it just, I don't know. They missed a field goal to win it. Like I said, it was tight, and there's been a lot of games like this week where teams were still in the game that probably shouldn't have been in the game. And this was another one of those ones where the Seahawks stayed in it right to the end. They didn't help themselves at the end in terms of the defensive pass interference call on that drive, which pushed them back a wee bit, and they just didn't get what they needed. So that leaves the Seahawks 7-3, as we mentioned already, in this NFC West, and the Rams are at 8-2. Right, that's the end of our good, bad, and ugly list. I think we've done justice to those picks that we've made in that section. But I'm going to stick with the Rams at the moment for the next segment. Right? The discussions, the focus this week has been a lot of quarterbacks. We've discussed a lot about quarterbacks. If, and in my opinion, it's a big if, a quarterback was to win the MVP award this season, who do we still think is in the running? And I'm going to answer my own question first because that's where we're at, and I'm not changing from it. And my answer to this question is Matthew Stafford. Even
though you just said he didn't have that big of a game last night.
Did they win? Did they win? They won. They done enough to win a game. Finding out a victory, leading your team to a ground out win. That's what that's called. That's MVP.
It's MVP status right there.
Matt, I back 2 weeks ago, we had a chat about who do we think will make a push in the second half of the season, and I picked the Rams. and I think they're proving me right. Matt Stafford, I think, can be the MVP if it goes to a quarterback, but I'm going to add a star on this or an asterisk on this. But it depends who they. If the Rams, the Rams need to make a Super Bowl for me to win it. I think there's a chance that it'll go elsewhere. But if the Rams make it a Super Bowl, he has a great chance of winning it. Just depends who's opposite in the Super Bowl. That's what it comes down to here. Who's going to be there in the AFC? Because there's a couple of AFC candidates for MVP as well. But looking at Matt Stafford's stats before we came on tonight, Matt Stafford's thrown for 27 touchdowns this season so far. The next highest quarterback is thrown for 21. He's 6 touchdowns ahead of the next quarterback in the league. He's top 5 for passing yards. It might slide out of that top 5 tonight depending on Dak Prescott's performance, but even still, he'll win that top 6. He's only thrown 2 interceptions as well. And there's only one player in the top 20 with a better start than that, and that person is 18th in the passing yards, and it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts only thrown 1 interception. So, lots of yards, lots of touchdowns, not very many interceptions. Your team are leading the division. Matt Stafford for MVP if it goes to a quarterback for me. Who are you going with? Have we already spoken about your MVP performance player this year? By any chance, will we just rewind back and just replay the section from earlier on?
Is it Drake May? I think it is. I mean, you've just obviously listed off Stafford's credentials for the year, but when you look at Drake May, he's got the most yards. He's 2,836. He's 20 touchdowns, so he's third place. He's only thrown 5 interceptions. He's got a QB rating of 70. I know his schedule maybe comes into play a little bit on that. However, I think it's just been pretty impressive, and I won't continue to talk about him because I've already spoken about him enough. But I think he is a contender, especially young quarterback coming into quite a big team that we all know the Patriots of before.
Yes.
And that's a lot of pressure. Yes. Big boots to fill. And we did check before we come on, and whether or not you like to look at the odds for who might win this. Yeah. Up until literally yesterday, he was winning the odd run for MVP, which has just been taken over by Matt Stafford.
And I obviously I didn't know that before we started. I said I was going for Matt Stafford. I looked up the odds and said he's slid in favour after last night's performance. So just want to throw something in there. You said that Drake May should get it based on his quarterback rating of 73.4, and you said he's second. Who's number 1?
Is it Matthew Stafford?
No, it's Dak Prescott.
Is Dak Prescott? Oh, he's not getting it though, is he? I'm sorry, but
no, he's not.
No, he's not getting it.
But he's got the best QB rating in the league.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's pretty. He's all right, isn't he? It's just a shame.
He should slide back into the top 5 for yards tonight as well. 230 yards, I think he needs to he'll go back into the top. Right, a couple of players, I'm just going to quickly throw names in there, we're not going to discuss them, but a couple of players I think are still kind of in the picture somewhere for that MVP rating. We mentioned already, Bo Nix. I think if he's the one, one of the ones that if the Rams come up against the Broncos in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a flip a coin between Bo Nix and Matt Stafford for MVP.
Did they vote for MVP though before? They voted MVP before.
I think it's pretty sure it's a Pro Bowl week, I think, but they've changed that.
So?
I think NFL awards are usually the week before the Super Bowl, because the better teams like, this person got MVP, and then another quarterback goes and balls out the Super Bowl, and you're like, why? They should have got it. So, you mentioned earlier on Josh Allen, MVP performance last night, again, another shout from the AFC. Daniel Jones and Jared Goff are in the mix, but I don't think they've got a realistic chance of winning it. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because Jonathan Taylor's going to win it anyway.
I mean, he's down the list. He's not even third on the list for odds.
Because he was on a bye week this week. That's why.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, Daniel Jones is on a bye, so take that.
Realistically. Anyway, that's week 11 wrapped up. Sarah, let's move on. So I say wrapped up. Cowboys against the Raiders tonight. Let's have a look at week 12 matchups. Could be interesting. Just give me a quick shout. 2 games that you're looking forward to in week 12 and why.
So I'm obviously looking forward to the Colts and the Chiefs, because I think this is a really, really big one for the Chiefs. They are still currently favourites to win this game. How that has happened, I don't really know, because obviously you mentioned him, but Jonathan Taylor is, I think, obviously key for the Colts. But we will see, and they need that. The Chiefs need this to continue pushing forward in their season. And the Colts are sitting high and pretty on top of the AFC South.
I'll tell you right now, Jonathan Taylor's going to get another hat trick this week. He's going to add to his
Okay,
list of
we'll
hat tricks.
clip that and run that back
Yes, we will.
for next week.
Just to get at you for not being favourite win MVP, he's going to go out, he's going to listen to this, he's going to say, I can't believe Sarah said that, I'm going to put another 3 touchdowns on the board.
Can't like the Colts. I'm not allowed
I'm not
to
actually
like
to like them. I'm not sure. I'm just
well.
accept that Jonathan Taylor is going to win MVP.
Okay, that's fine.
Right,
Anyway,
second game.
the second game is I'm going to go for the Panthers at the 49ers. It's
Yeah.
also Monday Night Football. Big deal for the Panthers because, again, primetime game. They're building the 49ers, obviously, are building that back up. They're now obviously favoured against it. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if Brock Purdy continues, if healthy and efficient continues to roll along, and what the Panthers can do against them.
Yeah, this is if the Panthers really have any sort of aspirations of making to the postseason, this is a game they need to get out and put a performance on. I don't know whether it's a good thing or not. The Bucks have got the Rams this week as well. So if the Bucks were to lose to the Rams and the Panthers were to win it, they are right in the picture, not even just for the playoffs, but for the divisional title. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, that's a really good game. I wish that was a Sunday night game.
I wish it was Sunday.
Later on, we'll have to probably... I'm not staying up to 1:15 on Monday night to watch that. I will put my hands up and say that right now. I will catch the highlights on Tuesday morning. For me, I'm going to go with the homer pick. No surprises probably there. Big divisional game. Eagles against the Cowboys next week. That should be a cracker. That is a late game on Sunday night. Not Sunday Night Football. I'll later kick-off on Sunday, so that will be probably the live game for us in the UK. And the other game I mentioned, the reason for that is I don't have to really explain why the Cowboys and Eagles is my pick of the game. It's just a great game, and it's Cowboys. And again, I just literally just touched on it there. The Bucks and the Rams. The Bucks have lost 2 in a row. Can they bounce back and get out? They've got that. The Patriots, the Bills, the Rams. 3 really tough games. The middle of their schedule. They've lost 2 of them. They need to bounce back with a win because they've got the Cardinals, and then they've got the Saints, and then they've got the Falcons after that. So that should be 3 wins for them. So if they can get a win on the board against the Rams, they could probably go and seal division in the next 3 games. But they could come down to them in the Panthers in week 16. That'll be a cracker. Oh, the Bucks and the Panthers is 16 and 18. That's going to be interesting. So yeah, that's my 2 games.
That's like
for this week.
We talked about them. Well, I mean, I just talked about them, but the Colts and Jags play almost back to back, which won't decide the division because the Colts are winning the division, but that's really important for the Jags in terms of the playoff picture for them. So that might also be a bit of a cracker because, again, divisional games are crazy.
Yes, they are. Anything can happen. Excellent. So that's week 11's episodes wrapped up for you folks. So make sure you check us out on YouTube and all podcast platforms for all previous week's shows and also our In Conversation series, which we will be bringing back very soon. Sarah, thank you for joining me tonight.
No problem. I get a break next week, and I know that for a fact. So I'll see you in week 13. I don't know what games are like in week 13, but hopefully they're better than the other ones that are in week 12.
Aye, that's it. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll be back next week. We don't know who. We'll figure out. You'll find out when we find out next week. Until then, we'll see you soon.